I will never forget the day my mother pulled me out of the living room, quietly closing the door while the sound of clapping and cheering still echoed from the other side. I was only 9 years old, and that was the first time I truly understood what it meant to be shut out of a world I was supposed to belong to. I stood in the dark hallway, listening to my sister Bella, singing like an angel amid the joyful laughter of our relatives. The house seemed to light up every time she appeared. And me. I was just a faded background behind the spotlight. Maybe I got used to it too early. But what I can't forget isn't the indifference. It's the moment I realized my family never really saw me. My name is Rose, and I grew up in the enormous shadow of my sister, a sparkling perfect shadow painted in violins, princess dresses, and endless childhood photo shoots. Bella is 2 years older than me, the precious gem in my parents' eyes, the one who made them proud in front of neighbors, friends, and even strangers. She wasn't just beautiful, she could sing, dance, and got into the school's cheerleading team in 5th grade. Everything she touched seemed magical, while I was just Rose, the quiet kid, always buried in a book. I didn't hate Bella, really. She never deliberately tried to hurt me, but I hated how my whole family turned her into the only sun allowed to shine, while I quietly orbited around her like a lonely planet. Her birthdays were always big events, mini fireworks in the yard, 3-tiered cakes, and a guest list so long we had to borrow chairs from the neighbors. My birthday, a store-bought cake and a half-hearted greeting, often rescheduled because it clashed with Bella's dance class. My parents invested everything in her. Singing lessons, dance, piano, then art. I once asked to take a drawing class because I liked quietly creating my own world with pencils. But my mom dismissed it immediately. You don't have the talent, Rose. Drawing is a waste of money. I just lowered my head and said nothing. Not because I agreed, but because I knew arguing wouldn't help. I had an old watercolor set my aunt gave me, and I used to secretly paint at night, in the closet, with a flashlight wedged between my knees. Even the clothes I wore were Bella's hand-me-downs, dresses with patterns that didn't suit my personality, sometimes with ink stains or frayed hems. I never got to pick out new clothes for myself. My parents said saving is good, yet they'd gladly drop nearly $500 on a new performance dress for Bella for every singing competition. I learned to stay quiet. Learned to disappear in that house, just to avoid feeling like a burden no one wanted to keep around. But I had a place to escape to, a little attic behind the house, dusty and filled with old books my grandfather left behind. There, I could sit for hours, reading one book after another, losing myself in ancient Egypt, distant planets, or wild jungle adventures. No one came looking for me there. They were too busy with Bella and her rehearsals. I loved the feeling of being alone, not judged, not compared. The only person who truly saw me was Aunt Agnes, my grandmother's younger sister, who lived about 30 minutes away by car. Whenever she visited, she always asked me what I was reading, what I was thinking. Never, "Are you planning to join a team like Bella?" She looked at me with honest eyes, no pretense, and I felt, for the first time, truly seen as a person, not just Bella's little sister. One time, she quietly slipped a leather-bound notebook into my pocket and whispered, "Write down your world, Rose. One day, it'll be the most precious thing you have." I kept that notebook like a treasure, hid it under my pillow, and filled it with stories no one else had ever heard. Aunt Agnes was the reason I didn't completely give up. She never tried to change me, never pushed me to shine. She was simply there, and, to me, that was more than enough. But outside of her, my whole world was still shadows. Parties I wasn't part of, and dinners where my name was only called if they needed more sauce. That's how I lived, quietly, invisibly, and desperately trying to believe my worth didn't lie in applause or medals. But you know, when a child is forgotten for too long, it doesn't just hurt. It starts to believe it truly isn't worth remembering. I had never felt so brave, and never so stupid. That night, dinner went on as usual, meaning it was all about Bella. She had just won some kind of award at her school's art competition, and my mom kept retelling it with a face glowing with pride. My dad poured wine for everyone, except me, of course, and said smugly, "My daughter's heading to UCLA, we definitely need a big celebration." I clenched my fork, my palm was freezing but my chest burned like fire. I swallowed hard and spoke up, not knowing where I found the courage. "I want to go to college too, I'm planning to apply to the business program in state." Every sound around the table suddenly disappeared. Bella stopped smiling, my mom frowned, and my dad laughed. A loud, dry, mocking laugh. "Rose, what did you just say?" My mom blinked. As if she hadn't heard me right. "I want to go to college, I want to study business administration," I repeated, trying to keep my voice steady. Then the table exploded in laughter. Not the fun kind. The kind that stings. Like I had just said I was going to Mars. "Oh honey," my mom wiped away tears from laughing, "you know college isn't for everyone, right?" Dad nodded, still in that cruel, amused tone. "You're not like Bella, Rose. She has talent. You should be more realistic. Working at Uncle Travis's diner would be just fine." My throat went dry. I sat still, trying not to cry right there at the table. Bella looked away. She didn't laugh, but she didn't say a word to defend me either. I stood up, pushed my chair back and ran upstairs, heart pounding and ears ringing. Every step on the stairs felt like a hammer hitting the fragile shell of my self-worth. I didn't sleep that night. I sat staring at my report card. Straight A's. Certificates, recommendation letters from teachers. I studied day and night, spent hours in the library, walked long distances just to ask more questions and understand better, and all I got in return was a smirk? The next morning, before anyone could leave the breakfast table, I walked straight into the living room, holding a thick stack of documents. I threw it down on the table. "If you think I'm not good enough, then read this," I said, my voice shaking with anger and pain. My mom picked it up and flipped through a few pages. My dad clicked his tongue, arms crossed like he was looking at a laundry flyer. "So what?" he said eventually. "Even if your grades are good, it doesn't change the fact that this family has no money left for you." "It all went to Bella," my mom added. "She needs to study art. She needs fame. And you should learn how to earn a living realistically." I was stunned. Not because of the words, but because of how calmly they said them, like my future was just a footnote beneath the grand photo titled Bella. "So, I don't get any chance?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. Dad shrugged. "We've made our decision, Rose. Don't make a scene." I turned and walked out of the room with heavy steps. But something in my mind had just snapped. And from that crack, a new determination began to form. If they couldn't see my worth, I would make them see it, even just once. I sat motionless in the corner of the backyard, clutching the wrinkled report card I had slammed on the table that morning. A numb feeling spread through me, like I wasn't a person anymore, just some leftover item everyone wanted to throw away. I didn't know how long I sat there. The weather started to turn cold, and the wind blew through my tangled hair like a reminder that it was time to get up. But I didn't want to go back inside, where every door had already been closed to me. My phone rang. Aunt Maggie was calling. I almost burst into tears just hearing her voice on the other end. "Are you okay, Rose?" Her voice was gentle, like a blanket wrapped around my frozen heart. I couldn't pretend. I started talking, breaking down in tears. I told her about the humiliating dinner, how they dismissed my dreams like I was asking for something ridiculous. I left nothing out. Not even the moment Bella looked away when I needed her the most. She listened silently, only sighing softly now and then. Finally, she said something that changed my life. "Rose, I have some savings, I want you to use it to go to college." I was stunned. You mean it?" I blurted out, my heart racing. "I've never been more serious," she said firmly. "You're smart, hard-working, and you deserve a chance. I won't let your talent be buried just because of someone else's selfishness." I broke down like a child. But those were tears of hope. For the first time in years. The next day I quietly packed my things. No one asked what I was doing. My mom was busy scheduling Bella's graduation photos, my dad was watching sports. When I walked down the stairs with my suitcase, they barely glanced at me before turning away like I was just a puff of smoke. "I'm going to live with Aunt Maggie," I said, standing tall in the living room. "She's going to help me go to college." My mom raised an eyebrow and smirked. "Maggie? She doesn't have money." "That's no longer your concern," I replied, then turned and walked out the door. No one stopped me, not a single goodbye, not a single hug. Aunt Maggie lived in a small house in the suburbs, with a porch covered in bougainvillea and an old rocking chair I used to love as a kid. As soon as I stepped inside, I smelled the sweet scent of apple pie. The only smell in the world that ever made me feel safe. She hugged me tightly, like she was trying to mend every broken piece of my heart. "From now on, this is your home," she whispered. That summer, she and I worked together on my college applications. She drove me to every counseling session, helped me write scholarship essays, corrected every punctuation mark in my personal statement. Every afternoon we sat on the porch with glasses of lemonade, talking about what I would do once I became a business student. "I'm going to run a big restaurant," I said, beaming. "Or open a little cafe with books and jazz music." She smiled, eyes sparkling with pride. "Whatever it is, you're going to succeed, I'm sure of it." The good news came on an early morning in August. I got an email saying I'd been accepted into the business program at Washington State University. I screamed, jumping out of my chair like I'd been shocked. Aunt Maggie hugged me, both of us crying tears of joy that words couldn't describe. That evening, we celebrated with barbecue sandwiches and apple juice, simple yet richer than any party I ever had in my old house. I started packing for the first big trip of my life. Not to run away, but to begin living. Aunt Maggie helped me fold each shirt, pack each book, and even tucked in a jar of blueberry jam she made just for me. The next morning, I stepped off the university bus with a pounding heart. The huge campus, tall buildings, and endless signs overwhelmed me, but I wasn't afraid. I had gotten here on my own effort, and with the love of the one person who had ever truly believed in me. I stood in the middle of the campus and took a deep breath. The wind swept through my hair, carrying away the bitterness of the past and the fresh hope just beginning to bloom. "Rose, you've finally begun." Now I'm sitting in the final class of my final semester, sunlight pouring onto the lecture desk, my heart glowing like the quiet fire that had burned inside me for 4 years finally caught flame. I had made it to the end of a road no one believed I could walk. Except Aunt Maggie. Throughout college, I never let myself slack off for a single day. When you know your own family buried your dreams right in front of you, you'll never allow yourself to fail. I studied day and night, worked part-time at the library, joined the student management club, and always looked for ways to lead every group project. I didn't want to just get through. I wanted to rise above. And what about Bella? During my sophomore year, I heard she dropped out. Not because of bad grades, not because she lost motivation, but because she got pregnant by a rich boyfriend, only to find out he wasn't the only one she was involved with. The news hit me like an icy gust, not because I was happy or sad, but because it made me realize the throne my family built for her was more fragile than I thought. According to Aunt Maggie, Bella came home 5 months pregnant, with a distant, almost arrogant attitude. "He's going to marry me," she told my mom, "because it's a family tradition." But a few weeks later, everything fell apart. He found out she'd been seeing his best friend. The relationship ended in a furious fight, and there was no wedding. My parents panicked. Bella acted like nothing happened. But what made me laugh, with a touch of bitterness, was where she ended up working after having the baby. Uncle Travis's restaurant. The same place they once told me I should go if I didn't get into college. I graduated with honors. Standing on stage, diploma in hand, I looked out at the audience and saw Aunt Maggie waving, tears streaming down her cheeks. My parents weren't there, Bella wasn't there. But I didn't feel empty. In that moment, Aunt Maggie was my whole world. After the ceremony, I got a job offer from an upscale restaurant chain called the Gilded Fork, known for its fusion cuisine and Michelin-level service. I started as an assistant manager at their downtown Portland location, where the lights never go out and customers happily drop $100 on lunch. I didn't take shortcuts. I worked 12-hour days, trained staff, handled crises, learned to negotiate with vendors like a warrior. And after 2 years, when the former manager moved to another project, I was promoted to general manager. 26 years old, running a $1 million restaurant. All on my own. The first thing I did after getting my first paycheck with that incredible salary, I went straight to the electronics store. I picked out the latest smartphone, big screen, high-resolution camera, massive storage, the salesperson asked. A gift for your boyfriend? I smiled. No, for someone way more important, my aunt. Aunt Maggie nearly screamed when I handed her the phone that Sunday afternoon. Oh my goodness, Rose, this is way too fancy. Not more than what you've done for me, I said, my eyes burning. Now, I'm going to teach you how to use Facebook, TikTok, and even video calls. We spent the whole afternoon setting up accounts, taking photos, tweaking filters. Her favorite thing was filming videos of her apple pie, which later turned into a little series that gained over 1,000 followers in just a few weeks. Every time work got stressful, I'd open one of her clips, talking about making the crust crisp, and all the pressure would melt away. You're a social media star now, I teased, when one of her videos hit over 50,000 views. She laughed, eyes shining like they used to when I was a little girl, hiding in her arms to find a safe place in the world. One late afternoon, while I was busy preparing the VIP reservation list, my phone lit up with a name both unfamiliar and familiar. I froze. My hand holding the phone began to tremble. It had been nearly 3 years since I last heard her voice, and now she was calling. I didn't know why, but a sick feeling crept into my chest. I didn't answer, not yet. But I knew this story wasn't over. And when it came back, I had to be ready. I thought I was strong enough not to need any apologies. But then, on a damp Saturday afternoon, as I was organizing a new menu for a VIP event at the restaurant, my phone rang, with a name I had buried deep in my memory. I was going to decline the call, but somehow, my fingers slid over the answer button. Rose, can you hear me? Her voice was raspy, both distant and familiar. I can, I replied, cold as the wall of ice I had built around myself. There was a pause, then she spoke as if swallowing every word. Your father and we want to see you, can we talk? I didn't respond right away. My heart felt like it had been dipped in ice water, pounding so hard my chest ached. Okay. Sunday. I hung up before she could say anything else. I stood in front of the old house at exactly 10 a.m. It looked smaller than I remembered, and much more worn. The paint was peeling, the roof sagged like the back of an old man. The door swung open before I could even ring the bell. My mother hugged me as if we had never fallen apart. You're so thin, she said. I didn't reply. Dad stood in the living room, hands in his pockets, eyes cautious like he was calculating something. Bella was sitting on the sofa, holding a toddler, likely my niece. I nodded politely, trying to swallow the lump rising in my throat. After a few awkward pleasantries, my mom finally revealed the real reason. Rose, I know we were wrong before, your father too, but Lily, she's trying to change, she needs a chance. Can you help her get a job at the restaurant? I said nothing. I didn't know why, but I felt pity. Not for Bella, but for myself. Because even after everything, a part of me still wanted them to see my worth. I nodded. I'll ask the HR manager. Truth is, I was the HR manager. But I didn't want them to know too much. Lily started working at the Gilded Fork the following week, as an administrative staff member. I braced myself for everything, lateness, laziness, bad attitude. But to my surprise, she showed up on time every day, worked hard, and got along with everyone. Customers even liked her. At first I thought it was just a front. But after weeks passed, I couldn't deny it. Bella was trying. Maybe it was for her child, or maybe fear of failure, I wasn't sure. But what I did know was for the first time in her life, she wasn't living in the spotlight. She was learning to face reality. As for me, after a year of managing the main restaurant, I was called into a meeting with the general director. "Rose, we want you to lead the launch of 3 new branches in Seattle, Boise, and Sacramento. You'll be the regional director." I was stunned. Then I nodded, nearly speechless. "I won't let you down." When I moved to Seattle to run the new branch, my life bloomed. With a salary twice as high as before, I rented a cozy little apartment downtown, with big windows overlooking the harbor, sunlight flooding in every morning. And then, the calls started. First, my mom. "The roof is leaking. Can you help me fix it?" I sent the money, no hesitation. Then it was the broken water heater. "It's freezing in the winter, Rose, and your niece is still small." I sent more money. Then came the new sofa, then the fridge that leaks constantly, and even, "We want to repaint the front so the neighbors won't look down on us." Every time I said okay, with a part of me still silently hoping for one thing. "Thank you, Rose. We're proud of you." But that sentence never came. Only more requests, again and again, like I was a smiling AITA. Still, I kept sending the money, not because I was weak, but because I had spent my entire childhood chasing one approving glance from my parents, and now, I wasn't sure if I was trying to buy it with every wire transfer. One late afternoon, while I was busy finalizing the VIP reservation list, my phone lit up with a name that felt strange yet familiar. Mom. I froze. My hand holding the phone started to tremble. It had been nearly 3 years since I last heard her voice, and now she was calling. I didn't know why, but a sick feeling crawled into my chest. Right. I didn't pick up. Not yet. But I knew. This story wasn't over. And when it returned, I had to be ready. I thought I was strong enough not to need any apologies. But then, on a damp Saturday afternoon, while arranging a new menu for a VIP event at the restaurant, my phone rang with a name I had buried deep in my memory. Mom. I was about to decline, but somehow my finger slid over to the answer button. "Rose, can you hear me?" Her voice was raspy, both unfamiliar and familiar. "I can," I replied, cold as the wall I had built around myself. There was a pause, then she spoke, as if forcing each word out. "Your father and we want to see you. Can we talk?" I didn't respond right away. My heart felt like it had been plunged into ice water, pounding so hard, my chest hurt. "Okay, Sunday." I hung up before she could say anything more. I stood in front of the old house at exactly 10 a.m. It looked smaller than I remembered, and much older. The paint was peeling, the roof sagged like an old man's back. The door opened before I even reached for the bell. My mother hugged me like we had never fallen apart. "You've gotten so thin," she said. I didn't respond. Dad stood in the living room, hands in his pockets, his gaze cautious, like he was measuring something. Bella was sitting on the couch, holding a toddler, probably my niece. I nodded in greeting, trying to suppress the lump rising in my throat. After a few awkward pleasantries, my mom revealed the real reason. "Rose, I know we were wrong before, your father too. But Lily, she's trying to change. She needs a chance. Can you help her get a job at the restaurant?" I stayed silent. I didn't know why, but I felt pity. Not for Bella, but for myself. Because even after everything, some part of me still wanted them to recognize my worth. I nodded. "I'll talk to HR." In reality, I was the HR manager. But I didn't want them to know too much. Lily started working at the Gilded Fork the following week, in an administrative role. I braced myself for the worst. Lateness? laziness, a bad attitude. But to my surprise, she arrived on time every day, worked hard, and got along with everyone. Customers even liked her. At first, I thought it was just a front. But over the weeks, I couldn't deny it. Bella was trying. Maybe it was for her child, or maybe fear of failing again. I didn't know. But what I did know was, for the first time in her life, she wasn't basking in the spotlight. She was facing reality with her head down. As for me, after a year managing the main restaurant, I was called into a meeting with the general director. Rose, we want you to lead the launch of 3 new branches in Seattle, Boise, and Sacramento. You'll be regional director. I was stunned, then nodded, nearly speechless. I won't let you down. When I moved to Seattle to run the new branch, my life began to bloom. With a salary twice as high as before, I rented a small, lovely apartment in the city center, with big windows overlooking the harbor, sunlight pouring in every morning. And then the calls began. First, my mom. The roof is leaking, can you help fix it? I sent the money, no hesitation. Then the water heater broke. It's cold in the winter, Rose, and your niece is still little. I sent more money. Then it was a new sofa, then the fridge, that leaks constantly, and even, we want to repaint the front so the neighbors won't laugh. Every time I said, okay, with a part of me still quietly hoping for one thing. Thank you, Rose, we're proud of you. But those words never came. Only more requests. Again and again. Like I was a smiling AITA. Still, I kept sending the money. Not because I was weak, but because I had spent my entire childhood chasing one look of approval from my parents. And now, I wasn't sure if I was trying to buy that look with every transfer. Bella and I kept a strictly professional relationship, not close but not hostile. One time, she said, "Thank you for giving me a chance." I just nodded. "Don't thank me, you did your part." I didn't want to attach more emotions to this, but deep down I knew. If they ever betrayed me again, I wouldn't have the strength to recover. And I was right. That afternoon I was in my new office on the 15th floor, reviewing the candidate list for the Sacramento branch manager position. The coffee on my desk had gone cold, my mind drifting between resumes, when a Facebook notification popped up on my phone. Aunt Maggie just posted a new video. I smiled. Her videos were my stress relief after a long day. I regularly watched her tutorials on planting tomatoes, baking apple pie, or telling funny stories about the neighbors' cats. I opened the video, expecting to see her garden or hear her warm laughter, but instead, I saw a chaotic party scene. The sound was loud and sharp, the effects of alcohol clear in the laughter, and the way adults spoke without control. The camera was shaky, probably because Aunt Maggie had left her phone on the table without turning it off. I saw my mother clearly, with her old-fashioned curls, holding a glass of red wine, speaking loudly in front of familiar relatives. "That girl, Rose," she burst out laughing. "She thinks she's all that, but in reality she's just a parasite, useless. It's all thanks to Lily." I froze. My dad stood next to her, face flushed, clapping in agreement. "Exactly. Without Lily, Gilded Fork would have collapsed. Rose is just a name, that title is just for show." I heard people laughing loudly. One of them, probably Aunt Ellie, nodded along. "She's only successful because of luck, nothing to admire." In a corner I saw Lily. She was holding her child, not laughing. But she didn't speak up either. Not a word of defense. She stayed silent, as if everything they said was true. It felt like someone had dumped a bucket of ice water into my heart. Every second of that video was a clean, sharp, merciless cut. After everything I had sacrificed, the money, the trust, the effort to rebuild a family, this was how they saw me? I turned the video off when my throat felt too tight to breathe. Hands shaking, I called Aunt Maggie immediately. She answered after 3 rings. "Rose." Her voice was full of guilt. "Auntie." My voice was hoarse, ready to break. I just watched the video. Did you post it on purpose? She sighed. I didn't realize the phone was still recording, but when I saw it, I didn't take it down. I thought, it was time you saw who you're really dealing with. They called me a parasite, did you know that? I did. I bit my lip until I tasted blood. How much money have I sent them? How many times have I stepped in when they needed something? Why? Why me? Because you're the only one in this family who doesn't need to prove your worth, and yet you're the one they demand the most from, she said, her voice heavy with sorrow. Because you're kind, and they take advantage of that. I sat in silence, tears falling onto my hands. Are you disappointed in me? I whispered. No. But I'm disappointed that they don't deserve you. We didn't speak for several minutes. I just listened to the soft wind outside my window and her steady breathing on the other end of the line. But in that moment, I knew there was no going back. I hung up, stood and walked out of the office straight to the parking lot, no coat, no hesitation. My chest felt like it was being ripped open, with anger, shame, and a kind of pain I couldn't name. The pain of someone who had trusted. That night, I sat alone in my apartment, watching a text from my mother pop up. Rose, take down the video. You shouldn't let outsiders see our family matters. I didn't reply. I opened my banking app and canceled every scheduled transfer. No more roof repairs, no more broken heaters, no more anything. I took a sheet of paper and wrote each word by hand, clear, firm, the way I needed it etched into my mind. I am not a parasite. On Monday morning, after the video, I walked into the restaurant with tired eyes but a clearer mind than ever. I sat at my desk, opened my laptop, logged into my bank account, and did one thing: canceled all recurring payments to my parents. No message, no explanation. There was nothing left to say. My phone started buzzing non-stop around midday. Messages from my mom came in, each one like an old knife being freshly sharpened. Sweetheart, that night was just a misunderstanding. Everyone had too much to drink. Don't overthink it. I turned off notifications, but less than an hour later, another wave of texts rolled in. Rose, we didn't get this month's transfer. It's getting cold, the heater's broken, what are you going to do? We're family. Are you really going to abandon your parents? I didn't respond. As my silence stretched into 3 days, the tone started to shift. Stop being selfish. We raised you, and this is how you repay us? Don't forget who brought you into this world. Without us, you wouldn't have gotten an education or your career. I read every line and felt like a stone was pressing down on my chest. Not from pain, but from something long since gone cold. Disgust. They were so used to living off my money that they treated it like a given. Love was the excuse, and money was the leash. They didn't need me. They needed what I provided. That weekend, I sent one single message, short and cold. I saw the video. I know exactly where I stand in this family. Don't contact me again. Then, I blocked both of them. At the restaurant, Lily continued working as usual. She never brought up what happened, never asked a question, never offered an explanation. Every morning she arrived on time, did her job, like nothing had ever happened. I didn't know if she had seen the video, but she had been there, she heard it all. And she chose silence. Part of me wanted to explode, to scream at her. Why didn't you say anything? Why didn't you stand up for me just once? But I held it in, because I knew that if I let that anger out, I'd fall right into the trap my family had always set for me, the pit of rage that never got listened to. In one HR meeting when everyone else had left, Lily suddenly stayed behind. She walked over to my desk, her voice soft. Are you okay? I looked up, into the eyes of the sister I once trusted. I'm working, that means I'm okay, I said, keeping my face cold and composed. She nodded, eyes not quite meeting mine. I don't know what to say about that night. I cut her off. You don't need to say anything, we're co-workers, let's keep it that way. No bitterness, No sarcasm, just the truth. Lily paused for a moment, then quietly walked away. And from that day forward a clear distance formed between us, not just across the office hallway, but through years of silence and chosen sides. Aunt Maggie was the only person I still kept close. Every evening I called her, even if just to hear stories about her garden or the neighbor's cat knocking over flower baskets. "You did the right thing," she said when I told her everything that happened after the video. "They don't love you the way you deserve to be loved, and you don't have to endure that for even one more minute." I didn't cry. I had already run out of tears. I just felt lighter, like the final chain had finally fallen away. The weeks that followed were swallowed up by work. I was running 3 branches, constantly traveling, attending conferences, and starting to draft the plan for our 4th restaurant. The numbers, reports, calls from suppliers, all of it became the armor I wore, layer by layer, so I wouldn't feel the cold of that fake family bond anymore. One night, as I was signing a contract with a new partner, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I hesitated, then picked up. "Rose? It's Uncle Greg. I saw the video, and I think you were treated unfairly." I stayed silent. "I just wanted to say, if you ever need anything, don't hesitate. I and a few others in the family, we're on your side. Don't think you're alone." For the first time in years, I felt something faint. Not hope, but recognition that wasn't forced, but freely given. I had cut ties. No more past holding me back. No more empty sweet words. And now, I was left with only one question. If there's no one left to disappoint anymore, who will I become? I never thought a single video could shake the entire structure of my family, but I also never thought it could open a door I believed had been permanently locked. True recognition. After that video, my phone stopped ringing with guilt-tripping messages from my parents. Instead, came texts, calls, from people I thought had completely taken their side. Aunt Jenna, my mom's cousin, called from Ohio. "Rose, I saw the clip. I was ashamed for my cousin. You didn't deserve that. You've accomplished incredible things, and I'm proud of you." I was speechless. In 26 years, that was the first time I'd ever heard someone from my mom's side say anything like that to me. Then came Uncle Nathan, my dad's older brother. A man who once couldn't even remember my birthday. He called just to say one thing. "You've done better than all of us. And I hope one day you can forgive, not for them, but for yourself." I didn't cry. But something in my heart softened. Not because their words erased the old wounds, but because, for the first time, I was being seen as someone with worth, not someone's shadow. Aunt Maggie, as always, remained my safe harbor. Every evening, I called her on video. She never asked about my parents, never told me to forgive or go back. She just talked about her tomato garden, the new neighbor's dog, and the squirrels tearing up her porch roof. "Are you okay?" she asked one night, when I was drained after a long strategy meeting. "I'm okay, just a little empty." She nodded as if she already knew. When you cut off a part of your memory, no matter how toxic, it still leaves a space behind. But that space is good soil. You'll plant something better in it. I looked at the screen, her small frame lit by the warm kitchen light, and I knew. Everything I've accomplished today is because of this woman. The following week I was called into the main conference room. Mr. Barry, the current CEO and the one who gave me my first shot at the Gilded Fork, was waiting with a folder on the table. "Rose," he said, with a slow smile. "I'm retiring soon." I sat up straight, heart starting to race. "I've watched you since day one, from an assistant manager to someone running 3 branches. You don't work just for money, but for integrity, for quality, and for people." Before I could say anything, he slid the folder across the table. "I want you to take over as CEO of the entire system." I was stunned. "You? You're sure?" He gave a soft smile, his eyes filled with a trust I had only ever seen in Aunt Maggie's. "I've never been more sure of anything. You're the right person, and it's time for a new generation to lead." News that I had become the CEO of the Gilded Fork spread quickly. Food magazines started covering it. A few local business papers called me the woman who rose from silence. I didn't care much about the titles, but when I saw that article, I thought of one person only: Aunt Maggie. I drove straight to her house that weekend, unannounced. She was watering flowers, back turned, so she didn't see me at first. I walked up behind her and gently placed a small box on the wooden porch table. "What's this?" she asked, turning around and squinting at it. "A ticket. To anywhere you want. I've already booked everything. The hotel, the tour guide, the insurance. All you have to do is pack your bag and go." She opened the box. The ticket read, "Venice, Italy, 10-day getaway." "Oh my goodness, Rose," she whispered. "No one deserves this more than you," I said, eyes stinging. "You gave me everything. Now it's time I returned just a little piece of it." She hugged me, holding tight like when I was a child curled up in her lap with a book and a heart full of unanswered questions. That night, I lay on the balcony of my new apartment, bigger, brighter, and fully mine. I looked up at the sky, where city lights blended with the distant stars. A year ago, I was still the girl they labeled a parasite. And now, I am Rose Morgan, CEO of one of the most prestigious culinary chains on the West Coast. A woman who was once forgotten but never gave up. A child once dismissed, now rewriting the definition of success through her own life. I picked up my phone and sent a message to Aunt Maggie. "I'm okay now, really. My story is proof that not everyone is born into love, but everyone deserves a chance to be seen and to stand tall. I was once a shadow in my own family, underestimated and used. But it was resilience, kindness, and one person who believed in me, Aunt Maggie, that helped me rise. Success doesn't come from luck, but from the courage to walk away from places that no longer value you. And now, I'm proud to be myself, no longer needing anyone's permission to shine." What do you think of Rose's journey? Have you ever felt underestimated like she did? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to follow the channel so you won't miss the next emotional family story.